Hey, Gulam. Omar. Hi. Yeah. So today I thought I'd jump in and do a quick live stream. Hi, Jennifer. I haven't done one in, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. And I always think I need to do more. And so I'm going to do that. But so I have been doing a lot this week. And I just want to quickly chat a bit about what I have done and what I basically prepared this week. Hey, Dennis. Hello, hello, hello. So I was thinking for some time, I have my data engineering academy where I talk a lot about data engineering. Now, let me fix the light here. Where I talk a lot about data engineering. And one thing that was missing the whole time was something with machine learning, right? Because for an engineer, so how much machine learning do you actually need? I think you need a fair amount, not that you need to be able to yourself do the whole analytics thing and create algorithms and analyze data, but more in the terms of you need to understand what it is and you need to understand how to deploy this into your platform, into production. And for that, I created a course. Now, I quickly need to bring that up because as well as I'm super prepared again. So basically, just a sec. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing good. Here. So the idea that I had was to add some kind of a course where we analyze Twitter data. Because Twitter data is out there and everybody is working with Twitter data. So why not actually use that and figure that out? And the feed is just a black screen. I hope it's not. Let me see. Oh, it's working. Oh, it's working. It's working for me. So the idea is you work with Twitter, and what I wanted to do in this course is I wanted to analyze Twitter data and basically extract the sentiments out of the Twitter data and then somehow show this on a user interface. And this is something that you have very often where you say, okay, I need to actually pull data into my platform and do something with it and then visualize it somewhere. Or store it and then visualize it somewhere. And the easiest way of doing this was with Lambda functions, or in my case, what I think is with Lambda functions on AWS, because you can just host this stuff. And it's serverless and it just works. So I think that's one thing that you should be able to do, to say, okay, I'm hosting an algorithm, and in that case we actually used a pre-trained algorithm for this, where we have our ingest Lambda that is also doing on the left here, that is also doing this. Also doing the sentiment analysis. And then you take this, host a Postgres database where you can feed the data in and basically host it as JSON because it's coming from JSON, from Twitter with JSON, and then you create a visualization for this. And in that case, I was looking for the course to actually host a container on Fargate, on ECS, where you say, okay, I'm creating my dashboard and I'm hosting my dashboard on ECS. So anyone on the internet can access it. And this is basically an end-to-end idea, end-to-end pipeline from the left, from the Twitter API to the right to a user interface. And that user interface is basically going to look like It's going to look like this, where you on the left in Streamlit, let me quickly do something. On the left, you have your selectors. You're selecting then the tweets and from and to, and you could also select keywords. And then basically you get a gray, red, and green. Right now with Russia is not very green. You get the tweets in sorted by time. And that's something that I think is really cool. You can use, and it's very simple to actually solve. And that's why I hosted this, why I created this project, and also because we can expand this. Right now we host the Lambda, we host the machine learning as a Lambda. The next part will be to generate a CI/CD pipeline here where we host our machine learning, not in the Lambda, but as an API. And I think that's really cool to do as an addition. This will come later. Yeah, so machine learning on AWS, you can use something like SageMaker and work with SageMaker. Not everybody wants to work with SageMaker, right? It can be a bit overwhelming to set it up and to work with it. And so, yeah, I think that's a good starting point for people. That's why this was the first part with machine learning that I added. I just want to quickly show or talk about something else regarding why not SageMaker and so on. I posted actually this week about how much data engineering machine learning should a data engineer know. And the, where is it? Here. Let me show you. And it's actually interesting because, so for this, I was asking, okay, how much machine learning knowledge should people have? Do data engineers need? A lot of people, 36% said broad ML and algorithm knowledge. I think that's not the case. That's not right. Yes, if you want, you can have it, but it doesn't really make sense to have it if you're focusing on the deployment, if you're focusing on automation, if you're doing the engineer's work. You don't really need that much knowledge of creating algorithms or creating ML processes yourself or analytics yourself. I'm thinking mainly here, the 30% part, mainly operations part, that's something that is, that's the part where most engineers work. Understand what's the training, how does the training work, what's an application of a model or of an algorithm. That's basically what what I did in that course. Add this as the apply here, right? Because you have we're having our machine learning algorithm here, and this is a pre-trained algorithm, so this will just be applied. And this is something that people, I think, should really know. Yeah, send me some questions over here. I'm answering questions. If you have any questions around machine learning on AWS, around data engineers, and post it in the chat. Yeah. This thing, of course, is recorded. I'm going to record this for YouTube. You can watch this on my YouTube. You can also, I'm going to post this as on my podcast. Again, I'm starting the podcast again. So the audio will be a place. I'm going to tell you. Yeah. So that's something, machine learning. I think it's important. It's important that students know that and can work or can understand how to work it. And yeah, for that also, what I've been working on a few things this week. First thing, by the way, as I said, post the questions in the chat on YouTube or on LinkedIn. I'm going to answer I'm trying to answer all the questions around that. I started again on Twitter. I have a Twitter account. You can find me here on Twitter. Where's my here? Here's my Twitter. I've been posting a lot on Twitter lately because I like Twitter. Twitter is a nice platform. You can quickly share a link, not like on LinkedIn where you get penalized if you post links. I'm posting a lot of stuff what I was working on, a new project that's coming out where I'm working with Elasticsearch on tracking people and basically creating a user interface for this, or hype topics this year, and so on. I'm working on a Docker course. So all these things are coming, and I'm posting here a lot on Twitter. I like Twitter. It's not that serious of a platform, and I can shoot out very quickly some ideas, and I really like that. Hey Omar, great expectations and DBT. That's something I actually want to get into myself a lot more, especially DBT. I've been thinking about a course for Snowflake and DBT, but as always, it's not that easy to quickly generate courses. So this is something I'm working on. This is something also on my focus list for this year. To create a course, Snowflake, DBT, and maybe Airflow with these two as basically a 3-part course or three tool course. Let's see. I think these are important things. Great expectations as well. If you want to check if everything's going right and your outcomes are what you expect. Yeah, that's something you should look into, and what I'm also going to look into. So how much machine learning do data engineers need to work with? I think what you should do, you should, as I did in the course, start with something that is easy to use. Like we are using from the natural language toolkit to just process data or analyze data. The next step would be if you train a model, you put the model somewhere like on S3 within AWS, and then you go in and you use or you apply your algorithm, your model on live data. That's something I think every engineer should know. As I said, I don't agree with people that say every data engineer needs to know, have a broad knowledge of machine learning and needs to analyze data and come up with the right solutions. That's more of the data scientist thing, I think. I want to do real-time data analysis on Spark. Should I use Spark Scala or PySpark while doing this? I would go for PySpark. I used PySpark in one of my courses. I have that in the document streaming project where we're hosting an API, a Kafka instance, Spark, and then MongoDB. And basically on the one side, you push in the e-commerce sales through the API, and then it gets processed Kafka, Spark streaming with PySpark, and then into MongoDB. I think PySpark is the natural thing to learn right now. Yes, you can maybe here and there you can do more with Scala, and Scala is a bit optimized. But for me personally, coming from the Scala Spark way, I absolutely love doing the streaming and so on with PySpark. So I would look into Tukrul. I would look into PySpark. That's the thing. Yeah. Liberato says, I do not see machine learning requirements for many job descriptions for data engineers. I'm not versed in ML. I know the basics. Will you add an ML learning course to the academy? No, not like a. I'm not going to add like a machine learning course where you learn the algorithms and you learn, I don't know, the whole statistics part and so on. I think that doesn't make sense. As you said, for an engineer, it's not out there in the job descriptions. It's, if you want to get into that, do a data scientist course. I think that's something. That's how I would move into. You know, that's more of a scientist thing. Yeah. So the basics of what I want to do more is focus a bit more on the application part. Okay, a data scientist built something, the data scientist built a model, and you have that problem. Let's automate the whole thing. Let's not do this manually in a Jupyter notebook or a PySpark notebook, you know what I mean? But do this, bring this automated into a platform like AWS or GCP. That's something that is very valuable. Is it worth doing AWS Cloud Practitioner? Of course, if you're looking for AWS jobs, look into that. You don't need it, in my opinion. If you have a few projects on AWS where you showed your knowledge, you can learn so quickly on AWS. With a free tier, you can just go in there and get started and look into identity and access management. And I would start how I would start with AWS. I would, like I did myself, create yourself an account, look at the tools that are out there, then create yourself a relational database, create yourself maybe an API, figure out the identity and access management, and then try to work with the database. Then you add the next part. You may add a visualization. Then you add a visualization with Streamlit or something. And like that, then you containerize stuff, and you basically that you build on top of it. Maybe you go away then from a Postgres database into a NoSQL database, into DynamoDB or something. You know, that's how I would go at this. And if you want to go deeper and so on, then look into the Cloud Practitioner. I think they have a lot of courses. Yeah. Hey, data professor. I saw you've included Streamlit in a few of your workflow illustrations. How do you use Streamlit as a data engineer? What a lot of people do is actually that you quickly host. So the case for Streamlit usually is quickly host an interface, quickly host a visualization. I personally like it for the teaching part, but also people like this for, as a scientist, for quickly visualizing something or exploring some data, or for configuration parts, where you say, okay, I'm having the database here and I don't want to go in there and manually modify files or something. What I do is I quickly create myself a interface on Streamlit, and there then I select the data that I want to load. I load in the data, for instance, from a file or from a database. I modify it and then I click save it, and you have it saved again. So for configurations and so on, Streamlit is really cool, very quickly accessible. Or it's very quick to create, very easy to access. And that's how I would use Streamlit, and how I know people use Streamlit. Also for demo stuff, as I said, if you want to quickly demo something, you don't create yourself a big website and so on. Use Streamlit, boom, 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 slap it together, show it to someone. Really cool tool. What's a good project idea that I should work on AWS? As I said, let me show you here. I've done a few things. So what I was talking about, the tweet analytics thing, that's something you could do. Or what I've done is, let me show you. So what I have done is basically in my academy, I have I have two AWS projects, the one that I was just talking about and the other one. And the idea with this is, do I have a visualization? I don't have visualization in here. Let me, basically, let me explain this to you in this way. So the idea how I done this is I'm always trying with projects, trying to create end-to-end projects where you feed the data into one end and you visualize it or get it out on the other end. So with that, what I've done is I've been looking into, and from my blueprint, don't want to get too much into this. The idea is you start with some kind of a connect or ingestion, create an API where the data can come in, then feed that into a message queue, and from there you process it. And you process it, feed it into a database, and in this case I use DynamoDB, and then visualize it, and or put it out again or query it again through an API. That's like one thing that you should look into. Like is put up a streaming pipeline, and I think I have a better visualization here. Let me quickly check. So create yourself a streaming pipeline. That's number one. What I would do. I would look into streaming. Then I would look into a I have it in the Miro board. Let me open up a Miro board. Just a sec. Here. So what I would do is I would basically create these pipelines. I would create a pipeline, a streaming pipeline where you say, okay, I'm taking my data and I'm feeding my data through. It's going into API gateway, Kinesis with Lambda. I process it, go into DynamoDB, and then have either a visualization or API gateway where I query the data out again of the database. Straight through streaming. The second part I recommend is that you build something with a data warehouse, something where you do an ETL job. And that's something you can do on AWS as well. Either you create just a simple EC2 instance and process data, or you create a glue job with Spark and say, okay, you're dropping data into S3, and then you process it with Glue, put it into Redshift as the data warehouse. And on the other side, just like any data analyst, you query it with Power BI. That's what I did in my beginner course for AWS. I think that's something that really helps. A lot of people work on the lower part with the data warehousing and ETL, and also people work on the upper part with this that is more transactional, that is more streaming, a streaming part. And then you can combine these like I did, that you say, okay, I'm taking the data from the data stream and I'm automatically feeding it into my data warehouse with, for instance, Kinesis Firehose. That's something that I would do, that I think is a really good starter project. And a lot of people have done that in my academy, and also I've done this with coaching students. And it's really, people really like this because you learn a lot. You learn identity and access management. You learn to work with Dynamo as a NoSQL database. You learn to work with data warehouses and streaming and so on and so on. It's really cool. AWS is a really cool platform. I like that. Hey, welcome. Anytime. Any more questions? By the way, Data Professor, follow him. Really cool YouTube channel. Is there a source where I can access real-time APIs? Well, as I said, the The Twitter API is an API you can use, and we have used for, I forgot how it's called. We've used an API for bike, renting bikes. Let me quickly check. Public boards. How is that called? Do I still have that here? I don't have that right now. Divi, what's it called? Divi API. No, I don't remember how it was called. Maybe I can post this later. But that's the problem with that. So let me get this. Let me also make a few points on that. So real-time data, real-time APIs. What you have to think about is with APIs, people or somebody is hosting the API outside of your platform, right? So you need to always query data out of the API. Usually when you talk about real-time APIs or streaming data, you would do the other way around, that you host the API and somebody is posting the data to you. Just like I've shown you in that AWS example. You host the API and you create a client, or somebody creates a client, and that client pushes data to you, right? So you need to have the data pushed to you, and then you stream it through. So it's real time. Otherwise, or streaming, or event driven. Otherwise, you're going to always pull the data, and how often are you going to pull it? Every second or something? So real time is always a definition. What are you defining as real time? 10 seconds, a second, 100 milliseconds. So be a bit careful with the real time thing. I would try to talk more here in the way of ETL and streaming, or event-driven processing. That's something. How I would rephrase this. Any suggestions for data science background student transitioning to data engineering? Like things which are enough for an internship? Well, an internship you can do very quickly. What I would do, as for an engineer, I would look into the fundamentals. I would look into, I hate to bring out my academy all the time, but what I would look into is I would go and I would look into the basics, so that you have the computer science fundamentals. That you understand how can you code, how can you use SQL databases, how can you query, write SQL queries. These are the things that are fundamental, or how to do software development with Git and so on. I think that's something you should know for an internship. If you already know a bit more, like Python, what I've done in my Python for data engineers course, of course, this is great. But I think that's a good basis for starting. You have your data scientist knowledge or data science knowledge. That's something to add. If you want, you could also start looking into like platform design. What are the tools? How do platforms usually look? How to choose the right data stores and so on. But I think a lot of people, especially in larger companies, if you're coming from computer science fundamentals, you know how to code, you know how to work with databases, you have SQL knowledge, I think that already will help you a lot. A lot. Okay. So what are other things? What have you noticed about data engineering job market? So the job market, the thing that I'm seeing is cloud platforms. there's roughly, I have a source where they're analyzing data from job descriptions, and roughly 60% is AWS for data platforms. So I would absolutely, as a beginner, I would look into AWS, or so generally, or if you do a bit more research and look at like the industries you want to go into, the companies you want to go into or get a job, which platforms are they working on? And then if you always see GCP, then I would go for GCP. But generally, AWS is something that you need to have figured out. That's something very important. Otherwise, job descriptions, as somebody said before, who said there are not a lot of machine learning things. Don't focus too much on the ML part. It doesn't really help you. Become a good data engineer. Know how to automate stuff. That's the right way of doing this. Of learning data engineering and becoming a data engineer. Yeah. So, as I said, check out my Twitter at Andreas K. I did that a few years ago. I was since 2013. I have that account, and I'm working right now. I'm working today. I have prepared 2 more courses. I prepared a Elasticsearch course, as I said in the beginning. Elasticsearch. I also prepared this stuff for a Docker course. That stuff is coming soon, because Docker is that's also something for data engineers. What you should understand. Look into Docker. That's also why I'm bringing it into the academy. I don't want to have outside sources for Docker. Yes, I know there are a ton of resources and how-tos. But what I have seen is people tend to go down these rabbit holes and never come out of it again. So that's what I'm looking for, and what you should also look for. Look into Docker. It's simple. Look into how you can work with images, pull an image, start an image using Docker Compose, and how you can build your own images so you can run your code in a containerized environment. That's something that is very important, containerization. That's also why I added that course this week, machine learning and containerization, because if you created your container, it can run on AWS, it can run on GCP, it can run on Azure, you can host it on a Kubernetes cluster. It's very very flexible and really, really helpful tool. So great course, easy setup and process to S3. Yeah, S3 is really good. It's from a storage perspective, it's very, very helpful. It doesn't cost much. It's easy to use. A lot of tools actually integrated. It's really cool. Yeah. That was what I wanted to talk about today. I said, don't look too much into the machine learning part. Look into and that's also what I'm focusing on, look into that because I'm focusing on that, because from my experience as working as an engineer and leading an engineering and data science team, that's a very important part. People need to have the automation for this, and that's where you can shine as an engineer. Yeah. What about great question here? What about K8 Kubernetes? How often do you use data engineering? The thing is, Sandro, people love to talk about Kubernetes and deploying pods and so on. For most of the people, forget about this. It's too advanced. It doesn't cost. It costs too much to host your own Kubernetes cluster. That thing needs to be on all the time. If you're on a cloud platform, you just use what is there already. like Fargate on AWS, or you host an ECS cluster. It's, for most people, it's absolutely overkill. That fits to something. While we were at, let me see if I can quickly find this on LinkedIn. While we're on the topic on LinkedIn about Kubernetes and so on, because I have been posting. I've been asking lately about what type of processing are people using. Let's quickly look at this. Come on. It's loading. Posts. Here. So I was asking, was that yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I was asking, like, what tools do you use to process data? As you see, 53% say Apache Spark, 10% say Lambda or similar, and 30% say simple Python scripts. Right? Simple Python scripts. This is where this whole thing is heading. And these simple Python scripts, either you host them on as a script itself, or you host it as a container. This is one thing that people do, and the other thing is people host stuff on or process stuff with Spark. These are the two options that you see the most, and that's why, that's why Kubernetes is, for most people, I think it's overkill. I wouldn't focus on it too much, except you're super interested in it and you want to get a job working with it, then focus on this. Otherwise, thanks. Yeah, that's for my kids. I have these on for my kids. I have a few more that I need to post there. So this thing changes from time to time. Yeah. That's it. It was great talking to you. I think I'm going to go, and it's 5 p.m. here in Germany. I think I'm going to go into the weekend here myself, take a quick walk outside, because I haven't really done any sports this week. Working as always. Yeah. Follow me here on LinkedIn, on YouTube, follow me on Twitter. As I said, Twitter, right now I'm really hyped on Twitter. It's a cool platform and I like it. And yeah, it's fun. Shoot me shoot me a message on Twitter. You can reach me there. And if you want to get into data engineering, again, here, learn data engineering. Check out learndataengineering.com. It's my living, my daily work, my platform, my passion to help you learn data engineering. Become a data engineer, or help or use data engineering in your daily work, because a lot of people also do that. So, yeah. Hi, Franzi, and bye, Franzi. I'm leaving. Have a great one. Bye-bye.